Let's create patina copper countertops. The recipe's simple. This is how you do it. We started with 3/4 inch MDF. We sanded and routed those edges, and we applied 2 coats of paint and primer in one. Let that dry and wipe the dust after you sand. Next step, you're gonna be ready for the epoxy. We're gonna mix our Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy at a 1-to-1 ratio for 2 minutes using a drill. We're gonna add our copper magic metallic. This really brings it to life. After that, we're gonna use our 1/8 by 1/8 square notch trowel. We'll spread that epoxy. Then we're gonna use our chop brush. But first, spray with a little bit of hunter green spray paint. This is the secret sauce to give you that patina look. And that chopping will embed that into the copper. It'll give you high tones, low tones, and everything in between. It makes it look realistic and makes you look like an artisan. This is a fun recipe. Stay tuned and check it out right now. Remember, when you subscribe to our channel, click on the red subscribe button and be sure to ring the bell so you get notified every time we have a new video. Thanks again. Do you have old countertops that need new life? If you're going over old laminate countertops, solid surface, cultured marble, maybe even natural stone that's seen better days, you're going to want to apply our bonding primer first if you have non-porous, slick, smooth, hard surfaces. This is key to create a tenacious long-term bond. Go check out our step-by-step instructions on how to apply our bonding primer. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Simply roll it on, let it dry, and you're ready for the next step. We'll see you at our instructions with bonding primer. Building countertops is simple. We started with 3/4 inch MDF, then we cut it to size. After that, we routed the edges, we sanded, and then we applied 2 coats of paint and primer in one. Now we're ready for the epoxy. Let's go.
Stop taking notes! Put the pens down, we did the hard work for you. In the description below, you'll find a handy link for downloadable, printable PDF.
Step 1, we're gonna sand our edges and the top of our surface with 220 grit. We've already got both coats of paint and primer in one down. Let's sand. Then we're gonna treat the edges with copper. That way our edges and our surface match perfectly. Copper spray paint is the perfect color of choice. Let's get started. You don't need a lot of paint on the edges. This is just to give us an undertone and a color. Don't overdo it, because then it takes a little longer to dry. Be sure it's fully dry before you start the epoxy. Let's do it. Okay, our spray paint on the edges is fully dry. That's a great sign. We're gonna sand with 220 grit just so we create a mechanical bond to that spray paint, and we're ready to apply the epoxy. Here we go. All right, let's mix up our epoxy. We need a 1-to-1 ratio. We need only 3 ounces per square foot. We're gonna mix that for 2 minutes using a drill. We're gonna add that copper, and then we're gonna do the green spray paint. This gives us our patina. It looks kind of funny until you chop it like it's hot. We're gonna chop it with a brush, and it mixes and melds and looks very natural, deep, and beautiful. And then to up-level our project, we could come back about 20 to 30 minutes after it's set, and we could chop it one more time with a rag, and this gives it more depth. It's almost like high-definition countertops. I'll show you how that works. Here we go.
Bonus tips after the video. Stay to the end. Trust me when I say these bonus tips will save you time, money, and up-level that project.
I'm running the drill full speed. I'm holding the drill off the bottom of the bucket. When you're gonna scrape the sides in the bottom of the bucket, slow it down and then rub the sides in the bottom. That way you don't chip out your bucket and you scrape those edges in the bottom. That's a pro tip, and that's how you get your epoxy mixed right. When you're mixing your metallics, be sure to mix it vigorously. If you have any tadpoles left in the surface, that's because it's a little bit of metallic that was undermixed. So that's a pro tip. Be sure to whip that, mix it plenty. You got a lot of working time. Take advantage of that and mix it for at least about 3 minutes. That's gonna give you a really good mixture broken up, and you're gonna get a beautiful finish. Next step, we're gonna pour that metallic epoxy right here on the surface. We're gonna trowel it out with our 1/8 by 1/8 square notch trowel. Then we're gonna chop it with our brush after we add our patina. And that secret sauce again is that green spray paint. You could add more or less spray paint to give you more of a dynamic finish. You can get this as green as you prefer, but I suggest starting light and adding more to your desired look. Here we go. Be sure to pull any loose bristles out of your brush. Make sure you prime that brush so that you start with a primed brush. We'll start chopping the surface. This does two things. It mixes the epoxy yet again, and it removes any of our trowel lines. Our trowel gets the proper amount of epoxy on the surface, so it removes the guessing game. You know that you have enough to get a real level surface, but you're not wasting any material. That's why that 3 ounces per square foot is right on the money. This is cool. Wow, I really like the depth that you get with that one technique. This could be a finished countertop. If you like the looks, you can stop right here. There's multiple techniques you can do with just a single metallic magic color. I'm now ready to coat my edges. I've chopped the top, I've overlapped my brush strokes. Now I'm going to use my gloved hand or my brush to get those long horizontal strokes so the edges have a great coat. This is how easy it is. This is why we pre-spray with the copper, because the epoxy is going to be more thin on those edges, so you might be able to see through some of that metallic. It's thick enough on the surface that it's opaque. You can't see through it, but on those edges, pre-treat it with copper. See these drips here? This is a reservoir. If you needed a little bit more to fill a pit or a divot, that's how you do it. You can also use the drips from underneath. Those all help us out. But as you can see, there's not a lot of waste here. That's why that 3 ounces per square foot is right on the money. Our formulation is designed just for you. We have plenty of working time, so I don't need to be in a rush to get the bubbles out. That's also why the bubbles come out. Our epoxy isn't gonna harden and gel and get stiff on you while you're working on it. You got plenty of time to get those air bubbles out. You got plenty of time to do these effects. Don't be in a rush, smile, and have fun. Look at how that lays out like a sheet of glass. That's easy. You can also use a heat gun. I prefer a torch because it's just a little more powerful. Time to add the spray paint. Let's do this. So when I spray the green, what am I gonna think about? What am I doing here? I don't want the whole top green. I'm just gonna put it in sporadic spots, punch perfectionism in the face. Let's do it. Stone Coat's so easy, you can do it with your eyes closed. Let's see how that looks. Oh, a little more. I love it. As you can see, this doesn't look realistic. We got paint floating on the surface. That's why we re-chop this with the brush. That melds it with that opaque magic metallic that really grabs that green and laces it throughout the project. It makes it look like weathered patina, hammered copper. It's a beautiful look, and this is how you do it. Here we go. All right, we're gonna torch those bubbles out. This material is gonna move and meld and lay out for us. It'll really soften up. I'm gonna come back in a little bit and I'm gonna chop it with the rag. This gives me that real deep dimension. You can leave it like this, or you can make it even more high definition later in the pour, but you need it to set up a little bit. So I'll come back and hit it, and that's just a drying time issue. How hot is your room? What's the humidity? Playing with your process and making a sample will give you the recipe for your own environment. I'm coming through and rubbing those edges with my hand. I'm doing that because I've chopped this yet again, and it's gonna push epoxy over unevenly. This helps make it even and give you a smoother overall finish. I want you to see how this looks after that first chopping before I come back. It's really beautiful, and it's gonna lay out even more. I'll come back and I'll chop it with the rag after it's a little bit more tacky. Check this out. Okay, we're back. We've let this set up a little bit. I'm gonna chop it with the rag to finish this puppy off. I'm super excited about this color. I love the patina look. You could put less green in it, you could stop with just the copper, or you could accent it with another color. This is one of our favorite recipes. We suggest trying this out and then evolving it to your own tastes. Our tool of choice is a paper towel. I like the blue ones because they don't leave lint in the surface. Don't use cheap paper towels. Go for the expensive 3-cent paper towel. Crumpling the paper towel is key. You don't want just a regular stamp. You want to move that paper towel in an organic fashion, and now we don't have to chop the entire surface. Leave some of it unchopped. This gives you multiple dimension. It gives you that 3-dimensional look because what we pull is going to appear darker. It's going to bring things to the surface, and it'll look like a different method than that brush does. That brush really leaves a beautiful finish in this, but we're going to show you one more method. Check out what that brush did here, where this really starts to react with one another and look very, very organic. I'm gonna torch this one more time. I'm gonna be conservative in the torching though, because I don't wanna heat it up so much that it levels more than I want. But that is a pro tip. If you want a really soft look, by torching it and heat gunning it a little bit longer will help it to mute out and level and be just a little less loud. If you like that loud, organic, crazy look that I'm going for, that high definition, high and low, then you wanna leave it alone. We're gonna do a clear coat tomorrow. That's gonna be just the same process and product with no color added. That's a 1-to-1 ratio with our Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. We'll let that cure and we're ready to use our countertops. Let us know in the comments below, did you like it before or after we used the rag to chop it? By torching the material, I loosen it up again. If it's curing and drying, torching it will help it level. Let's say you got a bug in the top because you live in Louisiana and it's the springtime and those buzzards are flying around. Then you're just gonna pick that bug out and retorch it and it'll lay out like glass. Occasionally you'll get epoxy that wants to pull from that edge. That's why we do a round over to promote that from flowing. But come check this out right here. You see how it's just pulling back from this edge a little bit? I'm gonna use the drips right here as my reservoir, and I'm just gonna apply a little bit to that edge. I'll chop it out, and then I'll smooth it out. And that is what you wanna do later in the pour to get really beautiful edges. That's a pro tip. Guys, visit us anytime at stonecoatcountertops.com. Call anytime for free project support. And until next time from Stone Coat Countertops, you got this! We'll see you on the next video.